Hi, Code Geass anime fan here to talk about Code Geass R2, basically R2 meaning season 2. Of course, we had the first season of Code Geass, and that was amazing. And then we had the second season, R2. Like the first season, 25 episodes, so in total in the original Code Geass series, we have 50 episodes, and they really used it well. There are some episodes that are kind of considered to be filler, but I don't think there's really a single episode that feels like, well, that episode just kind of whatever or a waste of time. They really used all the 50 episodes they had to get so much done. Memorable, good moments in every episode, and there are episodes that are better than others. Some episodes that really aren't necessarily the greatest, but I don't think there's a single episode that I would really give a negative review to. Now, when it comes to Code Geass R1, it's pretty much loved by most anime fans. It's pretty much just agreed to be great. R2 is more on the mixed side. Definitely a lot of people still love it. There are definitely moments that people love. I don't think it's beloved in the same way as R1 because there's a lot of complaints about it. And I do have some complaints of my own, but I do have to say that I think R2, and this probably shouldn't be too surprising considering the name of my channel, but R2, in my opinion, is a masterpiece, and I absolutely love it. There are things that aren't as good as season one, things that got better. So you probably want to know about those criticisms. So I think the first episode of the show, like I said, I don't think there's any episodes I would give a negative review to, but the first of season two is probably one of my least favorite episodes. Probably don't like it as much as any of the episodes of season one. Kind of meant to be a reintroduction to Lelouch and who Zero is, and he doesn't have his memories for most of the episode, so it's not the best in that sense. Like, there's this character, I believe, like this Chess King guy, who's meant to be hated, but unlike a lot of the characters that you're kind of supposed to hate, this guy's just annoying. And we also get introduced to the new addition to season two. I mean, there's several new additions, but one of the most prominent ones being Rolo. And this could be controversial. I'm not a Rolo fan. If I had to pick a least favorite Code Geass character, Rolo is certainly a contender. Rolo is just very possessive of Zero, or sorry, possessive of Lelouch. I mean, Lelouch is Zero, but specifically of Lelouch, and I just find his demeanor and the way he acts kind of annoying, and it doesn't help that he's also doing a bunch of unlikable things on top of that. So I can't be like, well, at least he's a nice guy now. He's just kind of annoying. I really don't like his character, so we already had that going against him. And then what he did to Shirley, without giving too many spoilers, but after what he did to Shirley, it's like, yeah, it kind of solidified himself as one of my least favorite characters. I really don't like him. I really didn't want him in the show. He has more screen time than I wish he did, and just, yeah, he's kind of an unwelcome addition. So there's some problems there. Another thing is Colin isn't as great in season 2 as she is in season 1. Now, Colin still has a lot of memorable moments, a lot of cool moments, and likable moments, heroic moments, all that stuff, but she isn't really involved as much of the action as the other three main characters. In season 1, I felt like she and C2 were almost kind of competing for being the main female character in the series. In season 2, there really is no doubt that it's C2, which is great because I love C2, but Colin does get a bit sidelined because in the first season she is definitely one of the four main characters, and in season 2 at times she feels like a main character, other times she almost feels like a side character. Like, unlike Lelouch, Suzaku, and C2, it's not just that she gets captured for a few episodes and is kind of gone or not really doing much for a while, is that she doesn't really get to confront a lot of the villains. Like, when you have the big confrontation with Charles, Lelouch, Suzaku, and C2 are there, Colin never got to interact with him. So, didn't interact with that main villain, didn't really get to interact with Schneisel. So she's really kind of left out of the loop for a lot of stuff. So that is kind of a complaint because, of course, Colin is an amazing character and I love her and wish she was more heavily involved. Shirley, for again reasons it's hard to get into without spoilers, isn't in the season as much as I wish. I still love her in this season. She still gets some really great stuff that emotional, and she's one of the most likable characters in the series, but she could have gotten more to do. However, there are things I do think R2 did better than R1. Big thing is that Emperor Charles, is much more involved in the action. We get a lot more interactions with him and the other characters. He's kind of more directly involved in the action as he gets more screen time. We learn more about his backstory. Since Charles is the big enemy the Lelouch is trying to target against. It's pretty important to have Charles be heavily involved and see more of him, what he's like as a person, his evil qualities, and the few tiny bit of redeeming qualities he has. So that's good. Schneisel gets a lot more to do in this season. He proves to be a fantastic enemy that sometimes competes with Emperor Charles himself as like the big villain of the series, so that's great. C2 doesn't really have that thing in season 1 where she's kind of not really doing much for a lot of the early episodes. She's really heavily involved throughout, and she's absolutely amazing, and her and Lelouch's bond has gone a lot stronger this season, and their interactions are amazing, and pretty just anything and everything C2 does this season is fantastic. Lelouch and Suzaku's rivalry has gotten more personal than ever before, and there's lots of great stuff. It does lead to Suzaku, not being the most likable for a while, but the way they handle it and the way they end it is great. Jeremiah gets to be a lot cooler this season, is more likable, and it's just more fun. Or he's already a solid character in season 1, but what they do in this season is really an upgrade. And there are great new additions, like Gino and Anya, and they're really good. While Gino's kind of this really fun comedy relief character, Anya's kind of this mysterious character, sort of like C2 at first. She's not really doing a whole lot, but there's a lot of subtle touches and a lot of surprises around her, and that's great. We get to see Bismarck Waldstein, the Knight of One, the Emperor's, main guy, and he's a really cool. Lucino Bradley, the Vampire Britannia. So there's a lot of great new characters added this season. And with all these great new characters, it does lead to some other characters being sidelined. Cornelia doesn't do a whole lot because it does take her a long time to show up. Which when she does, she's awesome, and she does go through some great changes and becomes a more likable person. But, I wish she could have been more involved. It takes a while for Lloyd to get involved, although when he returns, he makes a grand entrance. And of course, most importantly, we have General Upson this season, and if anything would make season 2 compete with season 1, it would have to be General Upson. Of course, I'm kidding, even though I do like Upson. But yeah, there's so many great things this season, and without getting too much spoilers, how it ends is incredible. One of the most emotional finales for a series I've seen, easily in the top 10, contender for the most emotional one I've seen. And there's bittersweet emotions, sad stuff, but also happiness and somewhat of an optimistic ending. In some ways, they kind of accomplished what they wanted to do, and it's amazing. So there's a lot of arguments to be made that R2 is as good as R1. How do I feel about that? I think R2 is a worthy sequel to R1. People can have debates about which season is better, but like I said, I think season 2 didn't do some stuff as good, but also did some stuff better, so it's really hard to compare it. But I think the two seasons give each other competition, are both amazing masterpieces in their own right, and I love them both so much. So that's how I feel about season 2.